Welcome to Living Chassidus. Together, let's live the Chassidus we learn.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Chassidus in the Morning, 15 minutes to change our lives. This year is sponsored by Miriam Bracha Glicken for Listening Shama, Yenison Velvel Ben Dave. Throughout this learning, help the Shama have the Aliyah that it needs. The ultimate Aliyah is Mashiach down here. Okay, today, what we're going to do is we're going to run through the whole maamer outside in the kitzur and sort of see the flow. And then, hopefully we'll have a good understanding of it. You have to learn and think about it and bring about it. And ultimately, as it says in the Chassidus, the purpose of learning is to bring to das. Das comes from lashon iskashus, connection. That when we learn something, we should have an intimate connection with it that we should feel. Just like it says in Tanya Parak Mem base, just like when you see a davar gashi, something physical and so tangible to you, so too with the maamer should be that tangible to us, not real for us. Okay, so let's go. So we say in the maamer, the Rebbe is quoting, "Ani Ledodi coming from Shir Hashem. I my beloved is to me, and this is the shtips of Elul." So what it's teaching us is that the Ani Ledodi, that I my beloved is the Shushat Sata the Raza from below, what's coming from us, from our Veda, and then Rosh Hashanah Kippur and the Seis Tshuva is Ledodi Li, is coming from above to below, transpiration. Now the reason why this Ledodi Li is also in Elul, even though we're talking about even though we're saying it's in Rosh Hashanah Kippur, the reason why it's like this is because the hachana of the Elul is what preludes to Tishrei, Rosh Hashanah Kippur. Elul is what starts it. So that's why it's in An Ledodi. I mean, Ledodi Li is also in the shtares of Elul. So that's what we see. Then we said, and that's an Aleph. Then in base, we say, now, the question is, the Yudgim is that in Elul, why is it Ledodi Li? We're saying the Ledodi Li is because, is in Elul. Really, even though it's really referring to El Rosh Hashanah Kippur, which is in Tishrei, because it's through the achanas of Elul causes that. We said, but that doesn't really work because we have to say that in Elul itself, in the Ledodi Li is in Elul. So in Elul itself is Ledodi Li. The Alter explains this. This is the Yudgim Nisrachman. That actually some mercy. And the Yudgim Nisrachman is really coming from above Hashem. And in order to understand this, that if the Yudgim Nisrachman come and arouse a person and inspire a person to come, and so therefore we have in Elul this Yudgim Nisrachman. That's the Ledodi Li in Elul. But it's not. But it's only sinas koyach, only an ability. It doesn't truly inspire us. And this is the marshal is given to understand. This is like the king in the field. And having the king in the field, using that explanation helps us understand how we can say Ledodi Li in Elul. What we're saying is that it is the king, it is an inspiration, but it's only in sinas koyach. It's not a true inspiration, just an ability that's given because the king's in the field. Then we say, what's the difference? What's the difference in these two ideas? And also in Gimel we say what's the two ideas of the king in the field? Is that what Yudgim Nisrachim do? That it goes to everyone. That Gamla Archaikim Yesh, even people that are very distant, unlike when it's in the palace. And together with that, it doesn't inspire us. It just gives us an inspiration. So and how do we understand this? That's like the king in the field. When the king is the difference in the king in the field versus the king in the palace. And when the king is in the palace, when all regal and everything like that, so that's very inspiring. Whereas the king in the field, just in the mundane plain clothes, he doesn't cause that same type of inspiration. But when the king in the palace, not everyone can go. Whereas the king in the field, we all can go and greet him. And that's the difference between Elul and Rosh Hashanah Kippur. And you have this type of revelation. Yeah. Exactly. Now, so that's what we're saying. Now, in Dalit, we ask like this. In the mashal that we're giving, so until Dalit, we sort of saying, we understand why Elul, like we've explained, what does it mean? The king is in the field. What does it accomplish? And this is the Ledodi live Elul, but it's an askoyach. It's not a true inspiration. It's just the knowledge of the king in the field, and that helps us get to the king and try to do the right thing. But it's really coming from our effort. In Dalit, we say, 1 second. That's good. It all makes sense, but there's a question here. Because in the mashal that the Alter Rebbe gives, he says that who makablon the save upon yafos the shemar lehem upon himself face. He receives them with a smiling face, and he shows them the save upon yafos. Shemar lehem upon himself, and shows them a happy, smiling laughter. So the question is, this is a whole different list, the whole inspiration. Before we were saying the king's just there in the field, but we have to come and greet him. But now we're saying, hey, not just the king's in the field, but the king is happy to see you, and the king receives you. Not just you're going to see him, but you get to talk to him, and he'll smile back at you and give this whole inspiration. That's inspiring, and then how can that be? If we're talking about Elul is all about our avodah, which this is very clearly coming to our avodah coming from L'mayla, from Hashem. So what we're saying is that the focus is on Mekabelus Kulam, receiving all of them, meaning to go into the palace and to greet the king, you have to be someone chashuv. But how do you become someone chashuv? It's through the avodah of Elul. And what we're saying is that, that we're also talking about a person that it's also not in the field, in the desert. In the desert, in the field means a place of klipas nega, that it's parv. Whereas in the desert, something that's not parv, that's klipa. And so we're saying, but the question is, how is the king coming to a person that's in klipa? We're saying even in the desert, we're saying he's not coming to the person in the desert, coming to the yid. And this is sort of a divide of what we're saying here. What is this? Makabos kolom, Sefer Gan Yafis, and Ma'alim Pam Sechakos, is that a person that's in the desert that's wanting that he comes to greet, he comes, the kulam, so all of them, when we all, 1 second. And so the wording when he says kulam, that whom kabbalas kulam, you see all of them. Kulam is referring to even the person that's in the desert, or even the person, meaning even a person that just wants but not able to, he receives that. Makabel, he receives that effort. The Mara, and he shows that this effort that you put in is being received, and it's really tapping to the person very high. Because the question is, how can Hashem come to the desert? Meaning, how can he come to the desert? Desert is a place of klippah. We're saying he doesn't come to the desert, to the place of klippah, but he comes to the yid that's in the place of klippah. Meaning, through our effort, through us showing ourselves the want, and so he receives that, and he makes you realize that you've tapped into a great source. And that source is Mekabos Kol Mesav Panim Yafos, the Ma'alim Panim Sechakos. Shows his Panim Sechakos. The Panim Sechakos, in the smiling, pleasant countenance of Hashem that he's showing you, is that you're really tapping into a deep level within Hashem. That's above your Torah mitzvahs and above even your tshuva. And when that knowledge comes, you say, "Wow, that's what's happening." Even if I'm in the desert, but I'm just trying. That's what we call by Hashem. That gives us the ability to get out of the desert and come into the field. Yeah, and so then in Hey we focus on this. We say Shemayim Pam Sechakos, and that's sort of what we said just before. We focus more of it in Hey at these two levels. Is that through the avodah, through our efforts in Elul, even if we're in the desert spiritually, we realize that we can that we tap into this level of panim serchikos. The panim serchikos is a tainug coming from Hashem. A tainug is a pleasure, like we said before. Like pleasure is a very deep level, and this is above the mitzvah that we do. This is even about the truth that we do, and that's what happened. That's what happens without effort in Elul. And this tainug is a way above anything. And through that helps us have that ability to get out of the desert of the situation we are, and it gives us that ability. Because when we realize that that's the tainug that Hashem has for us, that even though we haven't actually done tshuva, we just have the ratzon to do tshuva, meaning we just want to do the right thing. And Hashem sees that want, He receives that, and He shows us the smiling countenance. And that helps us have the ability to get out of the desert. So we said, but 1 second. That's all nice, but when we're saying all this is all very inspiring. Whereas the whole avodah of Elul, we're saying, is all coming from us. Whereas all these ideas that Hashem is showing smiling countenance and is receiving us pleasantly, it's all very inspiring. So how does that work? And he says, and even more, the whole concept of Ledodi, the whole concept of Ledodi, the marshal of the king in the field, knowing the kings in the field is very inspiring. So he's saying, we answer this by saying, truth is that it's true, but we're not inspiring something new. Really, a Yid and Hashem are one. We're really connected, we're really close. What happens, we unfortunately go into the field and into the desert, so we detach ourselves from that feeling. And we become very separated in distance. Whereas, let's say, for example, the person in the city, in the palace, you feel very close. Whereas when you go to the field or you're in the desert, so then you're very distant in place. But reality is you're really connected, and all the inspiration that's coming. That in a certain sense, it is inspiring. It's not just but that inspiration is not bringing out something new. It's just revealing what there always was, and that is that essentially a Yid and Hashem are one, and that's essentially what it is. Which is what happens throughout life. Throughout the year, we sort of separate that thing when we get into the field in the desert, and Hashem's in the palace. So what Hashem does is he comes out to greet us, and we greet him, and then it's like, oh yeah, well, a good friend. We're always connected. We're always close, and that's what we said in Zion. I mean, in Vav. In Zion, we say, for 1 second, not just, and this is sort of, it's like we get to the end and then we go full circle. Not just, this is what is achieved by us, but really, when we do that, we add it to the Yud Gimel Rachman. And this is like an even deeper point. The Rebbe is saying, ultimately, the whole world was created for us. The whole purpose is a Yid. So therefore, when the Yud Gimel Rachman come down into this world and help us bring out that connection that once we have with Hashem in Elul, then we raise up the Yud Gimel Rachamim to a place above where from when they were before. Because before they weren't, that was just a potential. The whole purpose was for us. So when we do our job, we're fulfilling the whole purpose of everything. And the whole purpose of Yud Gimel Rachamim, the whole purpose of the world itself is being accomplished through this. So not just we are accomplishing for ourselves, but we are actually elevating everything else. And that is Zion. We say, like we says, even the king is subject to the field, because the king is the highest, but the king needs the field to eat and to live. Even these levels that are above us as we are down here, but their whole purpose is to affect us and to help us achieve our goal. That's what we're saying. And then we start in Ches, we say, but 1 second. Ultimately, what we're saying is the Ledodi Li is causing the Ani Ledodi. So then why are we saying Ani Ledodi, Ledodi Li? It should be Ledodi Li, Ani Ledodi. Because ultimately what we're saying is that the Yud Gimel Rachamim is what helping us achieve our potential. So we say the answer is it's because the order is not based off what comes first. The order is based off what's more important. And we are more important. We are more important than Yud Gimel Rachamim, and the whole purpose is for us, and that's how we come. That's why it's Ani Ledodi. And that's essentially the maamer in short. The lesson is for everyone. Everyone can take, hopefully, look look it over, read it for themselves, the maamer, and try to take out lessons for themselves. But ultimately, the lesson is what we're seeing here is Elul is about this opportunity that has been given to us to connect to Hashem. And there's so many ways we can connect, and so many opportunities. Hashem really cares about the connection. And the ultimate purpose we have to realize it's for us. To us in our relationship with Hashem. That it's even deeper. That Elul is about an even deeper level than mitzvahs, and really ultimately a deeper level than tshuva. Of course, we've got to do all these things, but we're tapping into the deepest levels of connection with Hashem that we have to remind ourselves, and we have to sort of work on, and that's ultimately Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah, there's two aspects of Rosh Hashanah. One aspect is recognizing, we say Tamluchuni Aleichem, that we have to crown Hashem as king, is recognizing that connection we have with Hashem. And only after you have that recognition of the connection, then you come down to mitzvahs and tshuva. So too with Elul. Elul is about tshuva, but it's about tapping in, but tshuva coming from a place of recognition that I'm one with Hashem, I'm so connected. And that's the first, that's the intrinsic level meant to be thinking about. And so in simple English, you're going to say, what do I think about? You have to think about these ideas. What we learned, that the purpose of learning, like we said in the beginning, is you learn it and you do, and it's meant to internalize within you that it's so real to you as is, the laptop and the microphone and our glasses, our clothing and the sefer and everything that we see in our lives. So to this idea should permeate us, should affect us. We should be able to see it in that way. And how do you do that? By thinking about it. It's simple. And when you think about these thoughts, you have a better day. And think about these ideas and say, hey, wow, I'm learning this maamer that I'm one with Hashem, that Elul and Yud Rachman are there to help me connect to Hashem. Wow, what's the Yud Rachman? It's attribute of mercy, and Elul has this level of mercy within it. And that's so interesting. And then think about these ideas, and mull it over in your head, and ultimately you have to work on it coming out, realizing that, hey, I'm one with Hashem. A lot of times it's this, really, I'm so connected to Hashem. Yeah, you know who I am, you know what I've done, my day. I didn't wake up, I didn't daven, I didn't watch Negalasa, I didn't do all these things. And tell me I'm one with Hashem, and come on. So we gotta fight off the Yetzer Haras in our head, and these ideas should be the action that we live by. And with that, it'll help us have an amazing year. Thank you for joining this series, and Mitzvah Hashem will continue very soon.